Normally, when I bring you a cemetery tour, it's a relaxing look at the place that I'm visiting or the person that I'm researching. Today's cemetery tour is going to be different. Now known as the Ridges, a part of the Ohio University campus, the Athens Insane Asylum was once home to those that society had cast aside. Records and discovered archives reveal disturbing documentation of brutal treatments that were put into place. The grounds of the Athens Insane Asylum hold the remains of the unwanted, forgotten souls that were unclaimed by their families. Today, we take a look at the history of the Athens Insane Asylum and pay our respects to those buried here and give them the honor that they didn't receive at the end of their lives. With construction of the structure beginning in 1868, the Athens Insane Asylum became home to those cast aside by society. The hospital would go through many names, including the Athens Lunatic Asylum, the Athens Hospital for the Insane, and the Athens State Hospital. The hospital would actually operate from 1874 through 1993. It is documented that the first patient to pass through the doors of the Athens Insane Asylum was a girl who was thought to be possessed. Sadly, modern-day research and studies would show that she probably had epilepsy. Perhaps the most disturbing thought is that a high percentage of the cases that passed through the doors of the asylum were conditions that could now easily be controlled by medication or other therapies. On the outside, the asylum boasted such recreation as livestock, farms, dairy farms, orchards for fruit, and even a carriage shop. Beyond the exterior walls and the barred windows, the inside of the asylum would hold darker practices. The hospital became well known for the practice of performing lobotomies on its patients. A lobotomy is a practice of breaking the connections of the brain's prefrontal cortex, leaving the patients nearly always confused and leading to other serious health issues. The practice is now considered barbaric and a trampling of patients' rights. As such, it's no longer practiced. The patients of the insane asylum were also subject to other torturous practices such as electroshock therapy. Nearly all of the documented practices have been discredited in modern medicine. As such, many of the patients sadly had a horrific experience at the hospital with little to no attempts at rehabilitation. As patients passed away, they were buried in cemeteries located throughout the grounds that we will visit now. There are a few different locations for burials on the grounds surrounding the former asylum. As far as we know, there are over 1,900 burials that have taken place here. The large majority of those buried here are unknown, with their lives only represented by a simple number of a simple headstone. As we look through the headstones, I want to break from the documentary-style commentary that I've done so far to speak from the heart. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't have a good feeling while visiting. And what I mean by that is there's a sense of sadness associated with being in these cemeteries that normally doesn't accompany my other visits. As I walked through the cemeteries, there was a seemingly black cloud hanging over me. It was also during this time that I became inspired to bring some honor to those who are buried here. The burials here are for those who are unclaimed by their families, further highlighting the sadness that accompanied the visit. As I walked through the grounds, I did see modern stones that were placed by veterans groups, which made me realize that I was amongst heroes. I saw other stones that were apparently placed by descendants through genealogy research that shows they were being cared for. And although the vast majority of those buried here are simply represented by a number, it's important to remember that they were people too. So today, in an area surrounded by sadness and smothered by tragedy, I do want to show you the graves of those who rest here. Forgotten by society, they are remembered here, and I want this video to be a tribute to those who are buried here. So now I'm going to show you some of the graves and such that are here. I do want you to know that the grounds look like they're very properly cared for, and there's even a cemetery walk and a nature walk surrounding them now. Very beautiful, but again, it's just, every one of these stones is a life that was here, and people that are buried here, so I do want to take a look at that. And there were two different cemeteries. It may have, you could, I guess, call it three, because on one ground there was a cemetery up front and then one on towards the back. So I guess you can consider that three. But either way, those are very properly cared for, and it was good to be able to go through there and see this stuff, and I'm glad to be able to bring that to you today. But mainly I just wanted to stop here, show the graves, show what I was able to see, and take you along with me on my visit and on my journey. In the year 2000, reclamation of the forgotten cemeteries began by the Athens, Ohio chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This group helped fund the restoration of the cemetery to its original state. Since the reclamation, more information has been found about those buried here. 80 veterans are buried in this cemetery, and in 2005, Memorial Day ceremonies were started honoring those buried here. Thankfully, some honor is being brought to those buried here, and I want to be a small part of that through this video. And today's cemetery visit was different from most of my visits, but I never want to fail to show the value of life. Those who are buried here didn't receive the dignified burial that they deserved, and thankfully, through genealogy and veterans groups, some honor and dignity has been restored to some of those people buried here. I always want to do my part through my channel as well to honor those people that didn't receive it at the end of their life. Thank you for joining me as we toured the grounds of the former Athens Insane Asylum and give some respect to those buried here and cast away by society. Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, this was definitely a different cemetery visit for me today. And, although there was a lot of sadness associated with the visit, I do want to take note of the strides that are being made and that have been made to show some dignity to those that are buried here. And I want to be a part of the process. So thank you all so much for watching. I would love to hear what you thought about the video. Please leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Search for me on Facebook by searching for Whit Docs. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that. Thank you all for watching. Again, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment below. Thanks again for watching. I will see you again soon.